In the beginning, there was nothing. Volunteers have rebuilt the Swanage Railway over 40 years, and it's an amazing achievement. It's a tale of determination, of fighting, and of winning against all the odds, showing what the human spirit can achieve. Linking the seaside town of Swanage and the pretty village of Corfe Castle with the main line from London at Wareham, the 10-mile branch line took 2 years to build. 87 years later, the line was closed by British Rail, with demolition taking just 7 weeks in 1972. Nature soon reclaimed the abandoned track bed. It took 30 years for determined volunteers to relay the tracks and rebuild the line. A small group of railway enthusiasts started restoration at Swanage in 1976. This is what Swanage Station looks like now. After the railway from London reached Wareham in 1847, Swanage businessmen campaigned for 40 years to connect Swanage with Wareham. The Swanage Railway Company was formed in 1881. Construction of the 10-mile branch line began in 1883 at Wargret, west of Wareham, on the London line. Building work also started at Swanage, where the station was close to the seafront. The line cost £80,000 to build, excluding the rails, and opened in May 1885. The new line brought visitors to Corfe Castle and Swanage. Swanage was a quarrying, fishing and farming community that was transformed into a seaside resort with the arrival of the railway. A train journey from Wareham to Swanage took 25 minutes and cost 11 old pence. The horse and carriage journey took 1.5 hours and cost 2 shillings and sixpence. Stone, ball clay, milk and livestock were exported out of Purbeck by train, while coal, food and other essentials came in by train. The First and Second World Wars saw trains bring troops to Swanage for training exercises, including preparations for D-Day 1944. With the coming of peace and increased prosperity, more people visited Purbeck by car than by train. Less people and goods were carried by train, and freight trains ceased on the line in 1965. Cheaper diesel trains replaced steam in 1966, and the tracks at Swanage were reduced to 1. Regular trains from London ceased in 1969, with passengers having to change trains at Wareham. British Rail first wanted to close the line to Swanage in 1967, claiming declining passengers and increasing costs. Objections delayed the closure until January 1972, the branch line's 87th year of operation. The last train left Swanage for Corfe Castle and Wareham on Saturday, the 1st of January 1972, New Year's Day. Campaigners fought to stop the tracks from being lifted because they wanted to buy the line and reopen it. British Rail kept the 3-mile line from Warwick Junction to Fursbrook for trains hauling ball clay. Enthusiasts formed the Swanage Railway Society in the summer of 1972 before the tracks were lifted, but they couldn't afford the £126,000 demanded by British Rail for the redundant land and track. Contractors lifted the track in the summer of 1972, tearing up a mile of track in a week, with the demolition work taking just 7 weeks. The line from Wareham now ended east of Fursbrook, where British Rail set up a stop block at Matala. British Rail sold the Matala to Swanage trackbed to Dorset County Council. Swanage Station was sold to the Town Council, which bulldozed the platform and stripped the canopy of its lead and glass. This was the lowest point for railway campaigners. Realising the dream seemed impossible. It was only after a majority of Swanage residents voted in favour that enthusiasts were given a year-long lease of the disused station site. Volunteers gained access to Swanage Station in 1976. Second-hand track was slowly laid by hand. Locomotives arrived at Swanage after being rescued from scrapyards and industry. Carriages, vans and other equipment needed to build and maintain the railway had to come in by road. Track was slowly laid using a hand-operated crane as the fledgling railway grew longer and longer. The Swanage Railway Company was formed in 1979 when the first trains ran on a short length of track. In 1980, the first steam trains ran at Swanage for the first time since the summer of 1967. Dorset County Council allowed the track to be laid out of Swanage to the 1-mile mark at Hurston. Passenger trains started to run to Hurston in 1984, where a halt had been built. The trackbed was cleared, with the track slowly relayed to the 3-mile point at Harmon's Cross. In 1988, a new station was built at Harmon's Cross that was the first new station in Dorset for more than 50 years. Public trains to Harmon's Cross began in 1988, the station being opened by a senior British Rail manager. The next challenge for volunteers was to extend the line 2 miles to Corfe Castle and onwards for half a mile to Norton. A government planning inquiry ruled that the line could be rebuilt to Corfe Castle and Norton. Corfe Castle Station was restored to its former glory, and a station was built at Norden, next to a new car park. The first passenger train ran to Corfe Castle and Norton in 1995, for the first time since January 1972. Volunteers spent the late 1990s clearing the track bed and relaying the track for a mile, from Norden to Matala, and the start of the National Railway Network. 30 years after the line closed, the Swanage Railway's tracks reached the National Railway Network in 2002. In 2005, the last Witch Farm oilfield gas train ran to Fursbrook, after which the line from Warwick Junction was unused. In 2006, the Swanage Railway signed an historic connection agreement with Network Rail, Out came the Matala stop block dating from 1972, and in went a panel of track and a signalled connection. This new connection was first used in 2007 for bringing in locomotives from the main line. The connection with the National Railway network was used in 2009 to bring in the first London to Swanage train since 1972, and also the first steam train from London to Swanage since 1967. In 2012, Network Rail renewed Walgett Junction, so regular passenger trains could run between Wareham and Swanage. A year later, the Swanage Railway received a £1.8 million government grant to return trains to Wareham. In 2014, Network Rail's upgraded signalling for the Wareham main line included Swanage trains. Swanage Railway signalling equipment was installed at Wareham Station. Trains between the Swanage Railway and Wareham are handled by the Corfe Castle signal box, working with the Network Rail Signalling Centre at Basingstoke in Hampshire. 2014 saw the Swanage Railway lease the 3-mile Network Rail line from Matala to Walgett Junction, west of Wareham, on the London to Weymouth line. Over 18 months, the Swanage Railway transformed the 3 miles of disused Network Rail line. A quarter-mile long embankment near First Brook was cleared, upgraded and extended for Swanage to Wareham trains. Half a mile of new track was also laid to replace worn-out wooden sleepers and rails. In 2015, Transport Minister Claire Perry was the first person to travel from Wareham to Corfe Castle thanks to the completed line and signalling system. The minister's predecessor had closed the Swanage branch in 1972. So trains could run to Wareham. A level crossing was built west of Norden Station. The crossing protected the road to Norden Station and also the access road to the Wych Farm oil field. Norden Gates level crossing took 4 years' work and 3,000 hours of design, building and testing. 2017 saw a dream come true, a trial Swanage to Wareham summer train service. A hard 45-year campaign had been won against the odds, righting the wrong of 1972. The Swanage Railway has achieved the impossible, showing the power of the human spirit and what vision with determination can achieve. The phoenix has risen from the ashes, reversing the closure and demolition of 1972.
An extended version of this documentary